The ongoing genocide of Palestinians by Israel is a current issue in international relations. Some scholars claim it started on October 7, 2023. Some also claimed it started during the Nakba in 1948 and has not stopped until today. But what is the world going to do about it? A common perspective on the issue is that the world is divided into two. The global north, who continues to supply Israel with the means to commit genocide on Palestinians, versus the global south, who is trying to stop it. How true is this statement? Today, we'll be interviewing Kenda Mahmoud to understand more about this issue. Kenda is a Palestinian activist and a founder of Eco Rebuild. Eco Rebuild is a non-governmental organization that focuses on the power of community-led solutions to address the environmental and humanitarian challenges faced by the conflict-affected areas. Kenda, we are so honored for you to take the time to talk with us today.
My name is Kinda, and just to make sense of this interview, it's really important to understand my background. So I am Palestinian refugee. I was born and raised in Jordan, but I'm originally from Palestine. And my dad's from Haifa, my mom is from Hebron, but I'm not allowed to go into either of them. So here's the thing. My dad's from Haifa. They have been refugees since the beginning of the Palestinian genocides. And like that's over 70 years ago, 70 plus years ago. And for the people that always say, oh, it started on the 7th of October, it started on the Nakba, it didn't. It was like a bunch of steps that led to the situation where, unfortunately, even though the Palestinian genocide is one of the most well-documented genocides, until unfortunately people still do believe that there is sides or there's like an argument about it, though it's not. For us, I'm 24 now, and my mom was born before the war. Like my mom was born after the war started or the occupation of Palestine. So to think about it, it's been a really long time. I've been since the day I remember like anything in my life. I just know that there's an occupation and that there is a genocide and many genocides that have happened in Palestine that maybe were not highlighted as the one currently in Gaza, but unfortunately it's something we can't really avoid or turn around or perhaps say because we do have a fact, and again, as I said, it's one of the most well documented genocides. So we do have a proof of everything. It's not just 2 years of it or since the Nakba. It's even way before and it goes back.
Wow! So mainstream statements and narratives that has been going on for years aren't even true, even though it's well documented. That is very, very unfortunate. My next question is, in your opinion, how urgent is the solving of the Israel-Palestine issue for global South countries?
It is extremely urgent, but unfortunately is unevenly prioritized in the region, or in the global south, let's say, for the global south countries. It is one of the most symbolic, urgent situations that currently happen. It reflects really the colonial and violence occupation and racial hierarchy. So it's not really one issue that we're tackling here, but it's a bunch of like where a lot of struggles are unfortunately forming together or happening at the same time. It's particularly urgent because it is like a very dangerous precedent. If like the genocide is being normalized here, then it's going to be normalized everywhere and specifically in the global south. So it might seem like it's just Palestine for now, but it's a huge issue for all of the global south. And within the history of the global south, we've seen a lot of other genocides and a lot of colonization and also segregation. So we know that the history, unfortunately for us, is rich of such incident. Palestine now is just a presentation of how this could go either really bad or it could be a turning point for the global south.
You've mentioned that there is a rich history of violence that has been inflicted on global south countries such as segregation, occupation, and stuffs. Do you believe that the global south sees the violence in Palestine right now as genocide?
Oh, so a lot of them morally do. Unfortunately, fewer of them do institutionally. So, because a lot of these countries, as I said and I mentioned, unfortunately, our history is rich with such incidents as genocides, decolonization, and unfortunate events, let's say. But here's the thing. The power lies within usually the global north. The global south, unfortunately, they have a lot of restriction from diplomatic pressure, economic retaliation, and security alliance. So they tend to, even though they would think what is happening in Gaza is a genocide, however, there is not really action that is taking, or they are not explicitly naming it as a genocide. So usually they often name it as violence without any legal language to try to minimize the effect, to not be basically be harmed economically or diplomatically from the stronger countries. This does not necessarily mean that they are denying what is happening in Palestine. It just reflects political risk management for them. However, again, as I mentioned in the previous question, like if we Palestine is a turning point for the global south. So if we ignore it now, it's going to affect us on the long term for all of the countries involved. So as they might think, it is political risk management. Unfortunately, it's just basically putting mitigation and a current issue to ignore it for now and try to basically find a solution for it in the future somehow.
That's a very good point about how the Global South views the issue in Palestine. The meaning of genocide is recognized internationally through the Conventions of Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Do you think this is the only definition of genocide, or does Global South have their own definition?
Okay, so the Global Genocide Convention definition is necessary, but unfortunately, it's insufficient for the global south. What we really need, like when I think about this question, I think a lot about a lot of factors that they do not include in the definition, which is basically the slow genocide pace that is happening in the global south, the environmental destruction, and the forced displacement of a lot of people, and the cultural erasure. So they do not necessarily mention that in the Genocide Convention. However, I do think that the way that we're thinking about it, and if the global South countries do share the same definition, it does, because unfortunately we're ruled. I don't want to say we're ruled, not directly at least, but a lot of things, the views that we have in the global South are affected by the global North. So in this case, it just it's not it's as I said, necessary but insufficient for cases that Gaza, for now, it's not only bombed, it's being made unlivable by them. So they just want to also like erase the people there on the ground, not just basically kill them. And it's like a really detailed plan of how to basically rewrite histories in their tone. That does align with Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, even if the Western states refuse to admit it, basically.
Okay, I completely agree with the point you made on how the Genocide Convention should be expanded to be more inclusive. Conflicts such as cultural erasure and ecocide are a large part of genocide. It really reminds us that the Genocide Convention is an old legal institution made by the Global North for the Global North. I agree. We can't talk about the institutions used to finish international conflicts without mentioning that they were made by the Global North. Like, for example, the United Nations itself. Can we ask Kenda, what is your opinion on the speeches made by Global South leaders during the 80th session of the UN General Assembly?
So, unfortunately, the UN has become a space where people just come, meet, and talk, but there is no action after these like talking. And it's just basically can speak but not decide for the global south. This is our place to talk, yet we cannot do or take any actions due to the current regulations and how things are set in the UN. Unfortunately, that reveals like a whole structural inequality for us in the global governance of how things are decided, of how things are moving. And my point is that it needs a whole restructuring. It's not fair for us, the global South. It's really a joke because, like, for us Palestinians, we always say that. We always say that the UN had to find institutes like UNRWA, for example, which is for refugees, but they had to find refugees for them first. So they made us refugees to create such organizations. And I know it's kind of like maybe a bit part of it lost in translation, but to make this make sense, just think of it this way. We are currently being governed by an elite group of countries that they are already taking the advantage of deciding the whole narrative for a lot of countries in the global south. We are at a point where this does not work anymore, and there should be a lot of restructuring in how decisions should be made and who has the power in these settings. But yeah.
You've mentioned that many global south countries can express themselves freely because of their economic interests and such, but do you think there are any other reasons that prevent global south countries from doing concrete actions to show their solidarity for Palestine?
Well, we know in the global south there is higher corruption in general within the government. So we know that unfortunately this does affect the view of the people of the countries in this area. It's really creating instability in their country, therefore caring for other like genocide, other people, other situations, though it's a very human basic thing to do. It's becoming very dangerous for you to speak out in these areas against like such occupations, such genocides. The thing is, like how I'm thinking about it, usually you get very upset as Palestinian. You see, this have been happening for over 70 years. But I think about it also at the same time from the point of view of the global South. What is it that they can do now? Unfortunately, we're going a lot of countries in the global south are going through poverty, for example, insecurity. There's a lot of issues that they are facing. So we do not have the capacity or the capacity basically to take a stand, big stand in front of these big countries, let's say that they are changing the narrative as they want. But thinking about it, this more than anything else should be able to bring us together because if you really want people to take a change, especially people who undergo a lot of injustice together, they can understand and relate to each other. So I think why Palestine is always highlighted, one of the genocides highlighted, and obviously there should be more news about the genocides happening in Congo, in Sudan, in Myanmar. But why I think it always goes back to the Palestinian cause, it's because it really does have a lot of factors integrating into one. So it's not just an occupation, it's not just a genocide. There is segregation, there is colonization, there is an ecocide happening at the same time. They are writing history, rewriting history, and in a land that have been owned for thousands of years for us. The way that I think about it, it's everything is connected at the end, everything is related. And this is why, even though a lot of the issues that we are facing in the global south happen, we should be stronger than just to let it divide us or to let it stop us from being able to give our full support for each other in these countries. Because the other countries can relate to us. Like some countries relate from the sense of colonization, other from the sense of genocide, other from the sense of like it's a whole lot of things that people see themselves in the Palestinian story.
Yeah, I really agree that this is a very intersectional issues that relates to common struggles faced by the Global South. It should be the starting point for Global South countries to care about Palestinian issues. Okay, so the global south does have a lot of common struggles. When I think about the global south, I think about the struggles for the colonizations that many global south countries have gone through. So do you think that solidarity for the Palestinian issue is continuations of the colonizations project?
That the solidarity for Palestine is a continuity of decolonization 100%. As I said, I mentioned that I feel like a lot of countries can relate to the Palestinian cause. They've struggled already before with such issues that they can see themselves in the Palestinian story. But the thing is about solidarity, that solidarity without any sovereignty, it's basically will always be symbolic for this case. And it will not be taken or translated into things on the ground unless people actually do take a stand for it. For example, it's not, and I want to tend to answer this question emotionally, but I'm trying as much as possible to like build the answer structurally.
Thank you so much for your answer. We appreciate how you connected the Palestinian struggles to the border history of colonialism and resistance. It's very understandable that this is an emotional story to tell. So, building on that point, I'd like to ask you about the future. How do you see the future of Palestine if the attitude of global South countries remained unchanged?
Okay, this will lead to many things, unfortunately. It will lead, first of all, to the fragmentation of the Palestinian land. It's have been happening for 70 years, more than 70 years, and now it's only going to be increasing. If you guys saw the news and you follow what is happening, even in Gaza and even in the West Bank, they are taking more land. They are redefining what is Gaza and what is the West Bank to basically take more land from the Palestinians, which is something that they have done before. And having the global South attitude towards all of what is happening unchanged will mean that there will be a normalization of mass violence and also a normalization for environmental collapse. At the same time, there would be like permanent refugee hoods, let's say. I myself am a refugee, so to look at what is happening and the fact that also my mom was born as a refugee and like everything, the global South position is it's it will either, how can I say? Basically, being silent today from the global south will be just another victim for tomorrow. And again, because of the situations in the global south and the histories, we do have a lot of things to unfortunately worry about. And here for the Palestinian cause, it will just mean that we approve of eraser of people, and what is facing us is gonna face all of the global south if we didn't all unite and speak now. There is a lot of challenging within supporting Palestine. There should be defending of self-determination. There is challenging in racial hierarchy, which we face also in the occupied West Bank, and resisting imposed borders that are just tightening within the day. So all of that, it might seem Palestine is the connecting point of all of it. If we ignore it now, we ignore all of our rights as the global South, and we're just accepting that that could happen to us, and we're not going to do anything.
Your response really highlights the consequences of inactions and reminds us that the future of Palestine is closely tied to the future of Global South too. So we know that the Global South is currently in a state of inactions. But what realistic steps can Global South countries take to play a bigger role in solving the issue of genocide in Palestine?
Okay, so there's a lot of things we can do. Obviously, we can talk more about it, spreading knowledge and putting it in the front line of all discussions that we are currently having. There should be a lot of things like arms embargoes, for example. Even the symbolic ones are really beneficial for the Palestinian cause, and it's something that has to be done within the global South. There should be coordinated diplomatic blocks and support for international legal cases in general. And I could go on and on about what is it that we can do, like South to South humanitarian corridors. It's very important. But I'm taking it from to the individual level. There should be a lot of things that we do as individuals to support the Palestinian cause, and I need to highlight that because I always speak about it. And it's boycotting. Boycotting is very important. It's something that we have to do. As I say, it's the least of the faith. It's like basically being able as an individual to take a stance by yourself. And it it's really about academic boycotts. It's about like consumerism, boycotting products. It's really also about civil society coordination. Here it comes the power, because as I said, unfortunately, the global South do tend to suffer a lot from governmental corruptions in general. So here our empowerment comes in. There we can like put knowledge productions from the global South and talk more about the situation. For us, what we did in my own initiative, what we tried to focus on to basically try as realistic steps, we started rebuilding. We tried to focus on the environmental justice for the Palestinians and for Gaza specifically, and basically health recovery as much as possible. It should be a political act, not just humanitarian ones. So we try to join conversations and debates about all of that, and it's really fascinating because we do believe everyone can do something. It's up to you to really know what is it that you can do, because every person can offer help if they wanted to. And we have to, because again, as I said, within the global South, unfortunately, it's a point where if what happened in Palestine is going to be normalized, then it's going to happen elsewhere 100%. So this is our time to basically be able to coordinate and support. And there's like a saying that I really love that I might butcher, okay? But hear me out, which is that the people who love peace should be able to organize as much as the people who love war. And I do believe in that a lot. It's for us to be as strategic, as important in coordination and planning our steps and basically building how these systematics should be changed. It should be from us to begin with. And yeah, I think this is pretty much what I would say for realistic strategic steps perhaps that we could take.
I really agree with that. Global South countries do have meaningful tools they can use to solve this issue if they choose to collectively use them. So related to that answer, I'm curious about how can the citizens of Global South countries exert political pressure on their governments to do more on the issue of genocides in Palestine.
This is a very good question because here's the thing about public pressure. It can work. It really does, but it has to be organized, sustained, and tied to elections, fundings, and basically reputations in general. For example, I do believe such as student movements do have a big hand in moving or like in putting these public pressures. As I said, consumer boycotting and also professional associations. And another example would be through storytelling. It's one of the things that we're doing now here today. It's really just trying as much as possible to highlight the stories and from the global south and try to understand the case better. It goes back to another saying that I really love in Arabic. It's آن الأوان أن يتحول الحزن إلى مفهوم من الغضب والثورة, which literally translates to now is the time for sadness to be transformed into anger and revolution. And this can only be done through organizing and being sustaining the steps that we do. So yeah, this is what I believe in a lot. And this is the whole concept of why we started the Eco Rebuild came from that sentence specifically. And it's always in the back of my mind whenever I want to do something. Whenever things get really tough as a public, when we want to do something, I just have to remind myself that unfortunately, there's a lot that has to be done and there's a lot that has to be said and a lot of things that we need to overcome in order to reach what we want to reach, which is a free Palestine. It's a very critical time and it takes a lot of organizing and it takes a lot of emotional connection to these stories to be able to actually do the public pressure, let's say.
Well, there have been so many memorable quotes during these sessions. Your answers are very inspiring and reminds us that public pressure is crucial to shaping government's policies. So my last questions to you will be, looking ahead, how do you hope the role of the Global South will develop in the next 5 to 10 years in dealing with this issue?
A lot of things. The first thing that came to mind, honestly, how I hope we're moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years is being not having to explain that a baby dying in the global south is just as important as a baby dying in the global north. We don't have to fight for saying there should be no dead babies, basically. We should be as equal as we always say. Lives are all important. And the thing is, to do that and to be able to reach that, we need a more coordinated global south. We need youth-led diplomacies in general. It's a lot of steps to take, but it's a case where at a point where I believe our generation is recognizing that and we're taking the steps to try to change it within our power. I could say also that Palestine could be becoming a turning point, as I said, not a forgotten tragedy from the past. It just could be a point where everything changed for the global south for the better. And this is what I hope for.
That is very, very touching. We really do hope for the same. Today's discussion has been incredibly inspiring, and it was necessary to call out to the Global South to do more to solve the issue of the genocide in Palestine. The Palestinian genocide needs to end as soon as possible. It's not just a genocide either. It's occupation, segregation, all issues that are at risk of being normalized if the global south doesn't take a firmer stance. We need people-led actions, consumer boycotts, new production knowledge, all to end this genocide. Kenda, we are very honored that you took the time out of your busy day to talk with us. Do you have any closing statements that you would like to give to the people of the global south?
Thank you guys for having me. I really love what you're doing, and I wish all well to your research and your project. If I were to say something for the global south, it would be that our pain is shared, and it's something that we have to take pride in it. There's a lot of challenges for us, but with all of the challenges, as God promised, there would be a way to overcome them every time. So for me, I think the solution will come from within. We shouldn't wait for the global north to take action for us or to come and rescue us as they want to do. It's really the power lies within the people, and it's always homeland or death, or as we say, revolution. And maybe Monica would love to add something to this. It would be lovely to have you say something.
Maybe for me, continuing what Kenda said and all of she already said to us that the people power is very important for now, and we hope we always stay conscious, like we stay focused for what already happened in the world, and we hope that the minorities or other oppressed people don't be ignored, and we can like share their voice to others.
I really agree with both of your opinions. We need to speak up for the voices that are unheard, and we need to turn our frustrations and sadness into anger. And everyone here really do hope that this podcast will bring more attention to the genocide of Palestinians, and that all of us in this lifetime will see a free Palestine. Thank you for watching.